What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Acro Voyage YouTube channel. The purpose of this channel right now is to essentially help expats, foreigners who are maybe considering coming and living in Thailand, maybe you're already here living in Thailand and you might be having a bit of a hard time, or maybe things are going great but you just like to get a bit of extra advice from someone that has been living in Thailand for over a couple of years now. And I've been coming and going to Thailand from the age of 16. I'm 34 years old now, can speak a bit of Thai, so I feel pretty acquainted with the culture and just generally what happens and goes on in Thailand. So if any of that kind of thing does interest you, then make sure you smash the like button, comment any questions that you might have, and we'll get back to every single question, and do subscribe if you're new here. Now, the topic that we are looking at addressing today is whether you should buy a house, a condo in Thailand in 2025 as a foreigner. So we're going to go ahead and dissect that. It was a bit of a topic that was playing on my mind quite a bit last night and over the previous week. So I thought I'd take a moment on today's walk where I'm hoping to get in around 10,000 steps just in rural Thailand here, and we can talk through it. So the first point that I think is really important is to determine what the reason is for you actually wanting to consider buying a place in Thailand versus maybe renting. Okay, we'll talk about the pros and cons for both. Now, it's a bit of a sensitive topic, but the first point that I really want to talk about is, have you just married or have you just gotten together with a Thai woman and fallen in quote unquote love, and she's convinced you to take some money, maybe sell up at home, wherever you're from, maybe it's UK, Oz, US, and just pack it all up and just, buy a place in the country or wherever she decides because you're so madly in love. Well, let me break it down to you. Unfortunately, now I'm not saying it's wrong or if it's right, that's a discussion for another time, but unfortunately the odds are not in your favor. All right, there's probably a good chance that she loves you mainly for the money, mate. All right, she probably loves you mainly for the money. You got to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself the question: if you're an old fella and wondering, oh yeah, she's so into me and all of this, but you're cashed up, you've got to ask yourself the question: would she act the same towards me if I didn't have any of my cash? Would the love be the same? Or would she just go for like a younger, better looking fella, maybe not so overweight? I mean, this is a harsh reality, guys, but this is the fact. And look, I'm not saying there's anything wrong at all with an older gentleman coming, having a wad of cash and just enjoying his life. Absolutely not. At the end of the day, if you can wake up and look at yourself in the mirror and go, you know what, I'm happy where I am in life and things are at least not going downhill, maybe consolidating, hopefully going in the right direction for what's good for you and your mental well-being, your happiness and everything like that, then good on you. Keep doing that. Now, I know that might have seemed like I was carrying on a little bit there, but it's really important to just take a moment for whoever's watching out there to really digest that. Because the reason why it's important, and if you think there's even an inkling of a chance, if there's even just a 1% chance that you might fall into that category of, I'm with a woman, it feels like she's into me, we've got a relationship going for a few months or even a few years now, the time's come, she wants me to buy, but if you feel like your wallet balance, your bank balance has anything to do with the love she feels towards you, then even just 1%, right? I would strongly advise you to be very careful about buying something that you are not legally protected from, in terms of her being able to potentially pull that rug from underneath your feet. Call it a rug pull, okay? Because I know it, guys, I know it. I've met people, I've experienced it. I know people personally where they had, a number of people in fact, okay, who have gotten together with a woman in this scenario and they've invested their money in, it could be a plot of land, it could be a home, something like that. And essentially what's happened is shit has hit the fan one day. Things are all good, but guys, we don't live in a fairy tale. We just don't, all right? That's just a fact of life. And she basically turns around and goes, do you know what? It's not working. Or maybe you get sick of it. And then you've got no stake on that land, on that house. Absolutely zero. You're in a foreign country, you're just sold up at home, you're left with nothing. Maybe you want to move on and have another go with another Thai woman, another woman, whoever it might be. Yeah? And all of a sudden, your nest egg is, whoosh, it's gone. All right? Now, there are ways to avoid this scenario, okay? Nobody has to fall for this trap. Nobody, in my opinion, should even entertain for the slightest moment getting themselves into this situation. And that's where it becomes really important for you as a man to be able to distinguish between emotion and logic in this situation. And 10 times out of 10, you should be listening to your logical brain here. Now, I mentioned a point about how guys tend to just think, oh yeah, she'll be right, mate, and they just sell up everything at home, come over and just go full send. I respect it. I do. You don't want to be in that 9 to 5 anymore. Maybe you've retired, but you can't afford to live on your pension because you haven't built up any passive incomes throughout your working career, and you know, your purchasing power is just going down. Inflation's hitting hard. Who knows what it could be? But generally speaking, if you've been an average income earner, your pension alone is likely not really going to allow for an extravagant life in Australia, for example, or certainly not the UK. So I get it. You want to come over, you know, get a younger bird and just enjoy life. Go down the street, get a cheap pad thai for 30 baht, all right? Fill up that way. Trust me, I totally understand it. But it's like not having insurance, mate. You need to have your insurance. Don't give up everything entirely at home. Just don't do it. For example, a lot of guys will sell their house, all right? What you should really do is, okay, maybe you got a big place. If you own it, great, well done. Sell it, scale down. Get a smaller, modest place. Even if it's like a single bedroom, tiny little shit shack somewhere. So you know that when shit hits the fan, because more than likely it will, all right? More than likely it will hit the fan over here. You're gonna need to come back home to Oz or wherever you're from, all right? In the Western world, you're gonna need some medical attention because you're just not happy with the medical service here, maybe. I don't know. Not to say Thailand doesn't have great medical, okay? But it costs money via insurance or just going straight through the door and paying the cost that way. But the fact is this, you're mad not to have that insurance, all right? And if you can't have that insurance, right, if you're not able to have it, then don't give it up and just rent. Just rent. That should be the number one rule here. Do not give up your abode at home unless you're in a position to scale down, or if you're not, then just turn your decision towards renting in Thailand instead. So let's just say you are going to buy. All right, now again, guys, do remember, these are just all my opinions, okay? Don't listen to me. This is not financial advice or legal advice or anything like that. This is just me shooting the shit, just talking my opinion, all right? Keeping it real, based off real stories I've heard, real experiences I've been through, okay? I haven't lost a house personally, but, you know, hearing people having gone through that and the distress that it has caused, all right, it's not good. It's not good. You don't want to be in that situation. Well, let's just say, you know, you do want to buy. Well, then that leads to the question, are you buying to just live? Are you buying to just do business? Or are you buying to live and do a bit of business? Maybe you're not sure. Perfectly normal, any of those things. Now, if you're buying to just purely live, if you're one of these people, then I would assume that you're someone that's got a good income or a good passive income. Maybe you've got some assets like S&P 500, some property, maybe you're doing some Airbnb, you're generating a good income that can sustain you to the point where, you know what, you're at a point in your life where you don't need to think about buying this place in Thailand for business purpose. You just want to have a place that's your own just because, and it's that simple. No more questions asked. Well, you should protect yourself, all right? And how do you do that? Well, you're not going to be able to do it through buying land or house on a land, okay? Now, technically, as a foreigner, you can own a house that's built on the land that is owned by a Thai, but quite frankly, it's just a little sketchy that way, and I just personally feel like you're not protected enough. That's just my opinion. So I just personally wouldn't do that as a foreigner. So I'm not even going to entertain that option, but it is there. The best thing you can do, in my opinion, if you're going to do this and buy, is buy a condo. Now, If you referred to my last previous video that I did here, I spoke about the fact that as a foreigner, you can 100% own a condo in Thailand, so long as the condo is in a condominium complex where the ownership is 51% Thai national or more, versus the foreigner, of course. All right, which is pretty common in your main cities like Bangkok, Chiang Mai, maybe Pattaya, some more popular areas down the south like Phuket, for example. Okay, there's going to be a lot of condominium complexes where the Thai ownership is 51% or more. Obviously, Thailand has been and will continue to be very touristic. In fact, now more than ever, for many years to come. Okay, it's very touristic. So, and the Thais know this. You know, it's all business at the end of the day, and stimulating the economy through tourism and all of this. So, it's all good. But that's the way you got to do it. That's the way you got to do it. Get yourself a good condo in a good area that you can afford, and own the bloody thing. All right. And if you're quibbling with your partner, right, quote unquote lover, and she's going, oh, no, why don't we can get so much more land, we can get a bigger house if we just go and buy in so-and-so province over here, like where my family is. Because that's probably a pretty common one, to be honest, that I have heard of making this up, all right? This happens all the bloody time, all right? It's equivalent saying, no, do you know what, we can get 10 times the space and build a house for 10 times the size. We can build a house 10 times the size. We just don't do it here. And you'll think, oh yeah, do you know what? The money will go a lot further out there, and maybe you'll just say, oh, fuck it, you know, you'll just commit to having a life out there. Don't do that. So if it's for business, 100% business, if you want to buy this condo, well, first of all, do your market research and really look into ROIs, return on investment. How much am I going to put in? When could I get this money back? What's the average amount of money I could make, worst case scenario, off of a long-term rental, off of a, setting up a business, doing maybe some Airbnb, right? Management fees, etc. How have the market trends been for properties specifically in this area, say in Phuket, for example? Okay, because obviously some areas of Thailand, your more touristic areas like Phuket, Phangan, Samui, the trend is generally up in terms of value within properties and land. Okay, but you go out into, say, rural Thailand somewhere in some of the other provinces, it's pretty stagnated. Okay, there's not really a lot of room for growth because there's just less liquidity being injected into these areas from foreigners specifically. You feel me? So if you're looking to buy for a 100% investment and a passive income vessel, then buying in some random province doesn't make any sense. You want to look into finding a good entry into the market on something modest, right, in an area like, somewhere south, Phuket, Bangkok, Chiang Mai, these kinds of areas. Okay? Again, not financial advice, but that's how you should be looking at it. Take your time, do your research, do the numbers, right? Do the maths on it. And also consider the fact that once you get that condo, right, it's pretty illiquid versus investments such as, S&P 500, gold, your most typical things, holding your money in bonds, for example, or anything that you could possibly invest in. Just about anything is going to be more liquid than a house, or a condo. It's going to take some time to sell, so do consider these things. Don't just think to yourself, it's all good because it's bricks and mortar. That's the biggest load of bollocks I've ever heard. Anything you put money into and invest in follows a market trend. And there are up periods in the market where you should be selling, and there are down periods in the market where you should be buying. And if you're not really sure, you might do a bit of business there, you might travel back home for a bit and then only B&B it or rent it out then, well, then it's the same thing, essentially the same thing. You still ideally want to buy it in an area and apply the same principles and logic to our previous discussion about if it was going to be just 100% for business. Yeah, guys, these are topics that I'm pretty passionate about. I've got personal experience in myself, and so I'm going to summarize the video now and just give you a bit of my own personal opinion on the matter as to whether you should rent or buy in Thailand in 2025. Obviously, it really comes down to a personal decision. Consider everything I've said in this video, all right? And just treat it like a bit of programming, do a pros and cons list, really write it down. And at the foundation of it all, you've got to protect your investment at its base, all right? You've got to protect your cash. Think about it. You have spent a lifetime putting away some savings via passive income, or it's your pension. I don't know, maybe it's a nest egg or an inheritance. I got no idea, all right? But essentially, it's come from somewhere, all right? That's yours. Protect it. Don't just let it get swept from underneath you from some bird that you quote unquote have fallen in love with in a matter of weeks or months. That's just insane. It happens all the time. So that's your foundation. I don't think, my opinion is that you should never invest in any form of property in Thailand unless you are legally covered, all right? And what I will also say on that point is get a proper lawyer and pay them the proper fee. Don't go dodge, all right? Get a proper English and Thai speaking lawyer, ideally. I have no recommendations, but do some Googling, speak to some people, get a lawyer, pay the money, do it all properly, get their advice before you go ahead and do any of this, because ultimately they are in that profession and you shouldn't really listen to anyone aside from them. So if you're thinking about it, go to a lawyer, get friendly with the lawyer, okay, first and foremost. So that's what I think. And for me personally, look, I think buying in Thailand, it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea if you can have full ownership of it, if you can own it through a condo as a foreigner and you're able to find a good deal in a good area and you've worked out the math. I think it's not a bad idea, particularly if you want to live here. But again, it also kind of depends on how you are as a person. Are you someone that is savvy with investing? Have you been that way? Like I was saying earlier, have you been someone that invests, whether it's through a bank or something, in like an S&P or gold or something, are you up to terms with those kinds of things? Because if you are, you might think to yourself, well, maybe renting is better and I just keep buying more gold or more S&P. I don't know. I'm not advocating for gold or S&P. I'm just purely using them as examples here. Okay. But that's really all I have to say about it, guys. My opinions are pretty clear. Protect yourself at all times. Be aware. Understand that you're not living in a fairy tale and the odds are against you. All right. And just try and remember, again, wake up, look yourself in the mirror. If you're happy with how things are, be real, and it's all good. All right. Take your time before making big decisions. Do not give up that insurance at home. Do not give up your place at home. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Okay. If you have to do it, if you need to sell up 100% at home in order to then come over and buy, and it's not in your name over here in Thailand, that is absolutely insane. I'm sorry, but no one can justify to me why that is a good idea. Absolutely not. All right. I don't care how good you think the relationship is. I really don't. That's just stupid. Keep the place in Oz and rent. Rent over here, for goodness sake. That's what you do. You rent. You rent here. The rent is cheap as chips, all right, over here compared to Oz, UK or US. That's what you do. Guys, that's it, all right? This has been going on for way too long. If you liked the video, please smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new here and you want to see more raw content like this. And comment your questions. What do you think? What experience have you had? Let me know. Let's get a bit of a discussion going in the comments. Have a great day. We'll catch you next time. Cheers.